All right, I think that's on. Let me know if you can hear me okay. I was just messing around with my audio settings. For some reason, I had my microphone turned up really loud on my last few recordings and things that I've done. And then for some reason, the system has decided to turn down, which I realized because we recorded like a reaction video me and Oscar did for the Patreon, which you get the link to down below. First time of us watching X-Men 97. Myself and Oscar, who do the X-Men review show for that. We did a reaction video type thing for it, and my audio is really low on it, so I realized the system had messed with my audio. So yeah, I just let me know if you can hear me. Alrighty, so thank you for joining Marvel Girl. A blurry person saying can't stick around, but just want to say we're doing amazing work. Well, thank you very much. So yeah, as I say, please let me know if you can hear me. My audio again, the seem pretty low. See if I can get close to my microphone. Let me see if that will help. Sorry about this, folks. I've got my gain turned up all the way on the device itself. Just for some reason it is it's coming in as quite low. I'm going to mess around with it later, but as long as you guys can hear me now. Yes, you can. I'm sure somebody will let me know. Somebody tell me. Okay. Do I sound quiet? Okay. As long as you can understand what I'm saying, I don't sound quiet. That's the main thing. Okay, cool. Having a drink for the occasion. So yeah, I just wanted to do a quick, well, we'll see how quick it is. See how long I want to do this. Just out of nowhere, really. I just was like, hey, I want to talk about X-Men 97 on the YouTube channel. But also, I can give an update and things like that. And yeah, like I said, we did a reaction video, myself and Oscar Stavemeyer, who plays Mr. Sinister and Sunspot in our show, and is kind of, behind the scenes with that stuff. And he does all the X-Men review shows, the movie reviews, TV shows for the Patreon. We did our first time reaction video. If you want to check that out, you can do at our Patreon. It's available to all tiers. It's like, you have to sign up for like $2 or whatever it is, and you can check out that. As I say, my audio is a little low. You can understand me for the most part, but when the actual audio is playing, and because I did it as like one long audible track, I can't mess with the levels of just me individually, because Oscar sounded fine. Like if this was like a podcast recording of audio without the audio of the show in there, because I did it on OBS, I could have gone in and just hired my volume up, but unfortunately I can't do that because the way I recorded it. So lesson learned with that one. So yeah, X-Men 97. It's a strange experience watching this show, because they're adapting the stories that we just did in season 3, which is kind of crazy. And you can see it as I watch the thing on the reaction, that I kind of had that realization and go, oh, it's not just the purple suit, it's not just Trial of Magneto they're doing all of the stuff. They're doing, Madeline Pryor and Storm being depowered. Spoilers, by the way. Spoilers for X-Men 97. They're doing Storm being depowered. They're doing Madeline Pryor, sort of. They're doing, like I said, the Trial of Magneto. They're doing that whole mid-80s, 85 X6 era, which is so crazy that this show that inspired my show so much, and this is what got me into X-Men. And you can tell the inspiration of this show on me in the way that I edit the audio, the fact that this theme is the theme that we use in the show. And you could tell the influence of that on our audio drama. But then for the show to come back nearly 30 years later and do the stories that I've just adapted or am adapting, which is really weird feeling of because obviously the comics exist since the 80s and I'm no more new to it, but nobody else has adapted this era or these stories until we did. And to see the official, MCU proper in a lot of ways, or backed at least, animated series do this stuff Although they're doing it in their own way and doing it uniquely, but to see them doing it finally is so strange as an experience for me because it feels like in the past I've been able to have like X-Men's been gone for a long time. Like other than the bad movies and stuff, it's not really the exception of some of Apocalypse. There's not really been any good X-Men media since we started. So I've always been able to look at the other adaptations retrospectively. I've always been able to go, okay, that worked from that adaptation, that worked from that adaptation. I'm going to take that and put it into our version. I'm going to learn what they did. I'm going to make it mostly comic accurate, but I'm going to put it into our show. And, that worked in First Class. So I'll borrow a bit of that and I'll borrow, So to see it now be them doing stuff that I've already adapted, and we were in production at the same time. There's no way that they could have, no way that my show could ever have been an influence. Obviously, I'm not that egotistical, but I'm saying that we were in production at the same time on the same stories, pretty much. And to see them adapting the stories that I have just done as well, it feels like watching another draft of my scripts in some ways. And obviously, it's so different in a lot of ways, but it is that strange feeling that I've never had before because, Power Rangers Once and Always was one thing. That was kind of a reunion show. It's that show is never going to be to the level of writing of our show because it's still a campy kid show and it still kind of keeps that roots for the most part. Whereas this show is going into the same depths of character and emotion to good writing and storytelling that we do. So it's this interesting thing of, again, having not competition, but because they're the real ones. I'm just a fan project, you know what I mean? But to see the comparisons of like, oh, this is how they adapted it, because for the most part, mine was completely, comic accurate. For the most part, I just absolutely just took to the source material and changed the wording around and told it in my own words, but it was completely the original story. Other than the silly Strucker twins, I had merged that with the whole thing with what's his name? Nimrod. I think his name for a minute. So yeah, I used that in that, and obviously we have done our own adaptations in other ways, but they're obviously doing their own thing because they're basing it off the old series, and it's much more of an adaptation. But yeah, I just wanted to put it out there that the first messages I woke up to on Wednesday were people going, "Wow, they really are like doing the same story as a short audio drama." Well, Dark Phoenix, Marvel Girl, it wasn't good, is what I'm saying. It's like nothing that's come out since 2014 when we started this, which, yeah, by the way, this is the 10-year anniversary this year, which I want to do something for, which, I've kind of announced on to the patrons and stuff, but it's something, it's going to be a big project that I need to really focus in on and make sure it's actually logistically viable. I hope they do an adaptation of God Loves Man Kills. Yeah, I mean, sure, why not? I mean, the limitations of doing that back in the day were the standards of practices. The limitations were that they couldn't do that because of it being on it was a kids show on a Saturday mornings. Whereas now they can because they're on a streaming service and can do whatever they want. So why the hell not? I say. But yeah, and also it's this strange thing of they're adapting the mid 80s when so many of or a couple of the classic X-Men have never joined the team. Like, this is the most faithful adaptation we've ever had in, a video version of X-Men in terms of the continuity, because like the First Class were a thing, like as we see in the first episode, there's a picture on the wall with the First Class and all that. So that we hint is even me and Oscar spoke about it. The weirdness was that they introduced Angel, pretended they didn't know who Angel was, and then decided that First Class was a thing, and it was like, wait, what? you did Scott did not, or Beast did not act like they knew Warren at all. But retcon. But the First Class was a thing in this. But it's so weird that they, like, if I was going to bring this show back, if I was tasked to do what they have done, the first thing I've done, I said this on the reaction video that we did, the first thing I would have done is bring in Nightcrawler, which they are doing, but credit to them for one of them, but eventually, Nightcrawler, Colossus, and Kitty Pryde. I would make sure to bring this more in line with the stuff, because they obviously started from the Jim Lee era-looking things, but they were adapting the Claremont 70s stuff. But it's strange that they never had Nightcrawler and Colossus getting pride on the team. So it's, to me, this would have been an opportunity to bring those characters into it, and kind of bring the team more up to date with, every other X-Men adaptation. Every other version has had those guys on the team other than Evolution, who had 2 out of the 3. But, the movies have it. Wolverine, the X-Men had it. Every other version of the classic stories always have some variation or 2 or 3 of Kitty Pryde, Colossus, and Nightcrawler in there. So it's interesting that they chose not to do that. But as I said with Oscar the other night, for those of you who watched that, I know the conversation that was had, because I know that representation is obviously a big thing in Hollywood these days, rightly. And I know that they decided that they wanted to, as much as Nightcrawler is blue, they wanted to have other ethnicities with Sunspot and things like that, which is fine. But to me, I'm greedy, because to me, the X-Men should be like, 30 members with the New Mutants and everything else. So to me, I was like, yeah, do Sunspot, but we can also have Colossus. Do you know what I mean? And I hope that the reason they're not having Colossus join the team is, boo Russia. I hope that's not the case. Which, look, the Brood conversation that I wrote in is a little dated now, because it felt like in 2022 when I wrote that like we were on the verge of World War III. And hey, it still feels like that these days. But yeah, maybe that scene with Kate was a little weird, but he also had a good message, which was, just because Colossus is Russian doesn't mean we can't use him as a character, basically. And I hope that the reason they haven't used Colossus is not for that. But again, Kitty and Colossus are both white, heterosexual characters. So that's probably why they went with Morph and Sunspot as opposed to those two, for that reason. Zach, hey Zach, the chat says, do whatever they want, like bringing in the best side character ever, aka Cypher. Yeah, Zach, who played Cypher in our show. I don't think we'll see Cypher. I mean, maybe Morph will turn into something, but of all the characters that they've got to get to that they never got to in the original show, because that was the thing of the 92 show, was they had to stick to the original roster. They couldn't change it up, which is like one of the inherent core things of X-Men. Every other adaptation, every other animated series, every other movie has always changed the roster up. This show never could, which is why Gambit became so popular. Whereas in the comics, he's popular obviously, but he's not like, holy shit, it's Gambit, like he is in the series, because he wasn't really a core member of the team. Like he was on the X-Men for the 90s and went away, came back for the 2000s. He's one of those like sort of like Havoc and Dazzler who are sort of in and out members. He's not like Nightcrawler or Colossus, Wolverine, who have been there since, or Storm, who have been there since the start, at least of the all new era. But they couldn't be, again, I'm glad that we are getting to where we can change the teams up, but I wish that we could have brought it a bit more in line with the comics from that point of view. But yeah. They did Cyclops Bear in 2 episodes than the movies ever did. Oh, absolutely. It was amazing. Like, I was like, oh, I'm just speaking sort of my random thoughts, kind of almost as the creator who has made X-Men the audio drama when I was saying those criticisms. As a fan, and, as a viewer, I love this, like everything about it. Like, it was so good. It is, and you can see my expression on the face. The thumbnail I have on the reaction video is just like this goofy smile, which is what I just had from the moment that music hit, and that scene where all the Sentinels are attacked versus the X-Men, the theme kicks in. It's like, holy cow, because again, like, I did that as a almost kind of a reference to how they did it back in the day, and then now the series is back and doing that, and the animation looks so fluid. And I know a lot of people were worried about it looking like sort of like Flash animation, but as we found out, that's not really a problem. It's a much more fluid in motion, let's put it that way. Like some of this, like, don't get me wrong, the bit where they come into the mansion office and then like waiting for Magneto as he speaks, and then and Storm's like hovering there, it does look a little video gamey, like a selection screen. But when it's in motion, the animation is far superior, because like the 92 animated series does, the animation is, other than the intro, the animation does not really hold up because it was done on a budget. And it was the time when we were sending the studios were sending stuff to Korea or Japan or whatever to get it animated, but they weren't doing that kind of anime style, which was much more fluid and like, it was 5 frames a second instead of 30 frames a second or whatever the current thing is. This animation's much more fluid and could do a lot. And just in this episode, the first one especially, really saw what they could do with that in the Sentinel fight and things like that. Storm was amazing. The way that they made Storm god tier, so that when she lost her powers at the end of episode 2, it's like, oh no, again, really reminded you how good Storm is to then take it away. We should have seen with the Mohawk that it was coming. Obviously, because this is, they can do whatever they want. They're doing a much more adaptation rather than following to the comics like I am. They're doing a mix and match of stuff. And obviously they're bringing in the 90s series, which kind of is post-Jim Lee, but also pre-Jim Lee. And they're doing this hint that Magneto and Rogue are going to hook up, or they did hook up in the past. Which is interesting, is like, did that happen during the show? Did that happen when the show was on? Was she sneaking away at one point and during Magneto, or was that when she was on the Brotherhood with Mystique? Which is interesting because in the animated series, like in the comics, Mystique's Brotherhood had nothing to do with Magneto. Like I had the reference in there of having Magneto be like in charge, and then he hands it off to Mystique. That was for me like a continuity thing, just same as having Moira there at the start of the first episode. It's like it makes sense for them to have that relationship and for Magneto to lead into Mystique in that way. And a bit of it obviously comes from the movies, but nevertheless, but it was so good. I have no complaints on a story level or an animation level, or like even the voices, some of the ones that people were worried about. I think Rogue is probably the one that you could tell has aged, but there's nothing you can do about that. But Wolverine sounds the same, Beast sounds the same, the Storm sounds the same, and the guy they've got to play Cyclops sounds more like Cyclops in the animated series than some of the returning actors. Like, he sounds just like the guy who played him in the original show, who unfortunately has passed away, but he sounds so good. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'd recommend, if you haven't checked it out, to go and check it out. Like, and not only is this show really giving it to us, the fans who grew up with it, and to people who are X-Men fans of first and X-Men, and as soon as that clone turned up at the end of episode 2, we're like, oh shit, they're doing Madeline Pryor, or a version of it. Not only is it for us, it's also a great jumping on point for new fans who can, the old show is dated, the animation is dated, way more than the other 2 shows that came since in a lot of ways. I mean, Evolution's very 2000s, but the animation is certainly a lot better than the original show. I can see people going back despite that, because when you're a kid, you don't go, oh, this looks crap and old. Adults might have a bit more of a problem with it when you've got a bit more kind of a critical brain, going back and going, oh, that animation looks janky. But I like the idea that this could make new fans of not only this series, but of the X-Men. Because if this show is big and it looks like it's doing really well, if this show does well, not only can we get more seasons of this, I feel like it's a message to Marvel that we want the X-Men. And obviously we're getting Wolverine and Deadpool, but like it's a message that, you've been flatlining for the last couple of years with a lot of average projects and average characters. We want the X-Men. They should be the new A-list characters that are coming in to replace the Tony Starks and the Captain Americas of the MCU. That would be a clear message to Kevin Feige and the powers that be. If they do that, the X-Men is what people want. So I hope it is. It not only does fans like us enjoy it, I hope that new fans also enjoy it. Yeah. So just general thoughts. I didn't want to get into a play-by-play or anything like that. Again, if you are kind enough to support me on Patreon, you can check out my reaction video I did to it and get a more in-depth thing. Although, again, my audio is quite quiet, so I apologise for that. Zach, in the chat. They're also working on Fantastic Four, which is the big one that people have wanted for a long time. Yeah, absolutely. Like, obviously there's some legalities in that. And there was some weirdness where I heard that the reason that we've only got the X-Men with like the old actors coming back is because there was some weird thing at Fox where they had in the contract that only James McAvoy and Patrick Stewart could play Professor Xavier until 2025. That is the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life as a contract, but I can believe that 20th Century Fox signed it because, you know, look at the shows that we've got. The proof is in the pudding, right? Like, the only time we've ever seen the X-Men characters since they acquired it is with the older actors. Even when they animated Beast at the end of Marvels, it was Fraser. I can't think of the actor's name for some reason off the top of my head. It was him. So it's just a strange thing. And like even James Marston has been spotted on the set of Deadpool, and he's in the Jim Lee costume, this costume for this show, which is awesome. So, like, again, I hope that finally next year, if that was the case, that they couldn't use anybody other than Hugh Jackman till 2025, hopefully this is a thing of like, okay, let's get a proper MCU X-Men project going. You know, Kelsey Grammer, thank you, Peter King. So yeah, kind of just been talking. I got this glass as a joke, by the way, and then I'm just like, you know what? If I'm going to be drinking, I may as well drink out of it. It's end of my work week, so chilling out here, which is why I decided to do this. Like I say, for those of you who do join me on the Patreon, me and Oscar have reviewed all of X-Men the animated series. We review all the Power Rangers with the crew over there. We're halfway through X-Men Evolution, or most of the way through X-Men Evolution now. We're going to do Wolverine and the X-Men. And then after that, we're going to get into the crazy. Like, we've done X-Men 1, 2, and 3. We'll do the other movies at some point. And we will eventually get onto the... Once we've run out of all the good stuff, it's like, oh no, let's watch that that pilot from the 90s, the New Mutants one with... Emma Frost and Banshee and Gen X, right? Yeah, we'll watch that weird one. I've seen it, but dear Lord, yeah. Zach said, you want another weird film rights to go down the hole? Look at the whole Marvel Sony thing. It's a giant weird web of who owns what. For example, Marvel owns the film rights to Spider-Man himself, but Sony owns the rights to 80% of the villains. Well, yeah, no, I think Sony still own the rights to Spider-Man on film. They have just loaned him by contract to Marvel. But Sony are like, yeah, but we want money too, so we're going to use all these other characters that we own still and do our own thing with it. And the result is, you know, Morbius and Madam Web. So, needless to say. Like, yeah. So yeah, I mean, that's really it. The show's amazing. I had an amazing kick watching it. And like so many of these shows, when they bring them back, and like the Star Wars shows and stuff, you love them because it's like, oh, I remember that thing. They're playing the music. They said the thing, sort of thing. This show is not only they said the thing, but the writing is also fantastic. The writing is fantastic. The direction is fantastic. Everything about it. It makes it so weird that the writer and show producer was fired or quit right before the show was released. That is a bizarre situation. I don't know what's going on with that because he did such a good job. Like, I can't see a reason why he would have been fired unless there was some sort of HR thing, or apparently there was something to do with OnlyFans or whatever. But who knows? It will come out one day. Hi, Jimmy. Jimmy will do the chat here. So yeah, like I heard all you guys when you were like, oh crap, these are the stories that you just did. Like, yeah, I know. It was a really weird feeling to see it, but you know, they own it. They can do whatever they want. It's their show, and I'm great to see the official projects finally doing. Like, I always said, I made X-Men the audio drama because nobody was doing an X-Men show. Nobody had ever done a comic accurate X-Men show that followed the comic timeline and did all the classic stories in order as they were. And I made my show to be that. So to see this show, which is the closest we've ever got to that, which was the original show, see them now tackling the mid-80s. It is just weird-ass timing that they are doing the stories that I'm adapting at the same time 30 years later. It serves me right for taking all those breaks, right, and having things where the cast take 3 months to get lines to me these days because they're all very busy real actors. Like it my fault for not getting to it sooner, but hey, at least X-Men Season 3 came out and I adapted all of these stories last year. So with the exception of Madeline Pryor, and if they go full on Inferno with that, I've done all these stories already. So I can't say I've been influenced by X-Men 97 now, although I obviously got influenced by everything else, including the original of this show. So Rob says, Rob Book in the chat, hi. He says the reaction to the end of episode 2 was priceless. Yeah, that was I had a, like, throughout the show, and I know that you heard it because my audio was quite low when the audio was playing. I said to Oscar, I feel obsolete. It's kind of like that scene of, in Jurassic Park. How do you feel? I like we're on a job, don't you mean extinct? Like I kind of felt like that. And obviously my show's much more comic accurate and it's its own thing and it's an audio drama and all that kind of stuff. So not really. But I kind of, for so long, I have been the only people to adapt these stories ever. Like, not even graphic audio. Like, they've done Days of Future Past, but the official projects have never adapted these stories. Other than Mohawk Storm being an apocalypse. We never got these weird stuff like Madeline Pryor or Scott leaving the team or Magneto running the X-Men or any of this stuff that's like, when you first read the comics, you're like, wait, what? What was this weird era? When Claremont was actually letting the characters evolve and change before, the Jim Lee stuff happened and they reset everybody back to zero. And it's so weird. And again, like Rob said, that reaction I had to the end of the episode was like, oh, God damn it, they're doing Madeline Pryor as well. Like, it was like the final goal of they're doing Magneto as the head of the school, which we already knew. But then seeing that they were doing Storm Depowered, which I saw that Life Death was going to be adapted this season, so I kind of knew that was coming. Then to see, obviously, Sunspot and all the other stuff that we were getting. Then they did the Trial of Magneto in episode 2. And then at the end, it was just like, and they're also doing Madeline Pryor. Son of a bitch. Which makes sense because it's all this era. So, and I just kind of was like, oh my God, they are doing all the stuff that I know that I just adapted. And I was like, I feel like the real show has come back and took their toys off me, is kind of how I felt. It's like I've been unlicensedly, I came into their house and was like, you're not playing with these toys. I'm going to play with these toys because you're not. And then the owner of the toys came back and was like, actually, they're ours. Thank you very much. And I like some of that stuff you've been doing. We're going to do our own version of it. That's kind of how it felt. That's the only analogy I can bring. And obviously, I have no rights to these characters. The fact that Marvel have not given me a cease and desist and Disney have given me a cease and desist for my show is fantastic, and I thank you for them to whoever has. I'm sure at some point with my presence on Spotify and stuff, I'm sure it's come across somebody's radar at some point in the last 10 years, and I'm very appreciative that nobody has decided to slap me with a cease and desist for the show. So, like, absolutely, it's theirs. They can do whatever they want with it. It is theirs by rights. But again, it's just the fact they're adapting the same stories after being away for 30 years. It's, yeah. Still alive in the chat saying, X-Men comic storyline, you're hoping the show covers that they haven't. I want Colossus and Nightcrawler on the team. And hopefully Kitty eventually as well. Like, I know Nightcrawler's coming, but I don't care, Putin and all that kind of stuff. Colossus and Nightcrawler belong on the main core X-Men team. And it is weird that in this show that is so comic book accurate and following the comic book timeline, adapting the stories, verbatim in a lot of ways, like they adapted Dark Phoenix very faithfully as well, and a lot of other stories very faithfully. They did the Phoenix saga more faithfully than I even did. Like, it's weird that we had this version like that, but Colossus and Nightcrawler are not on the X-Men. They need to get on the team pronto. That's so more than stories. It's me saying, right, now we've got the mission. Sorry if you can hear me pouring a drink. Now that we've got the permission from the studio, now the show can evolve and change characters and have different people on the team. That's what I would do. And eventually, bring in, Dazzler and Havoc and Psylocke, and, all the ones that we haven't had that are on the X-Men that haven't been in this show yet. Or have been on the show, but have just been like guest characters or supporting characters where, it gets to the end of the episode and you're like, oh, this person should really join the team. Hell, I want to see the New Mutants characters now that we've done those and Rick did such a great job with them. I want to see I want to see Magic come into the show properly. We know that X Factor's out there. Tell you what, I tell you what I want them to do most of all as well. Fucking Havoc, right? He's on the X Factor team, and him and Cyclops have met. And they've gone, oh, our powers don't work on each other. That's weird. And then they never followed it up. In all of the seasons of the show, they never followed it up. Let's do Havoc being revealed as Cyclops' brother. Let's do that, please. Which, again, this show that's so faithful is the only show where Havoc and Cyclops have not been, admitted. Even the movies finally did that. So weird. Rachel Gray, yeah, eventually. I mean, my thing with this show and the reaction to them doing the Madeline Pryor way they appear to be doing it is like, I appreciate it because it's a much clean. Like, I have killed Jean, spoilers. I killed Jean in Dark Phoenix. So now that I'm hinting at her coming back, I've got to do the version of the weird retcon that they did to bring her back in the first place. So, whereas this show can do Madeline Pryor better because, like, I'm not going to make Cyclops look like a jackass like they did in the original where he dumps his wife and goes and, oh, Jean's back. Bye, Madeline. Bye, Nathan. And just leaves them. At least they don't have to deal with that, and I won't have Cyclops do that because I'm not doing X Factor, or at least the original version of X Factor. But obviously, Jean is coming back, and obviously that storyline is going to happen with Madeline Pryor and stuff. So I appreciate that this show can do a cleaner way of it, and I kind of feel that way about Rachel Gray in that having Nathan Summers or Nathan Christopher Summers or Nathan Charles Summers is he in this, who, those of you who know is Cable, having that whole thing be much more straightforward, like with Bishop, where they made Bishop the same timeline as Days of Future Past, like I did. So he just streamlines it. And I don't know if Rachel is too much of a, no, timey-wimey, oh, there's another alternate universe for Days of Future Past, but also this Rachel Gray. Like, it's a bit too complex. Sure, in the future do that, but there is far more core X-Men members that haven't been on the team yet before we get to Rachel Gray. Far more mainstays. Okay. In X-Men, Rob Book says, at least you gave a reason for Magneto's new suit. Just listen to the episode today. Yeah. Well, no, I took the piss out of that suit because look at it. It's fucking terrible with his giant M and his sleeves that come up to here and just expose his shoulders. And it's not like he changes into a suit while he's walking around the mansion either. He's literally in that onesie. And the show makes it look as good as they can, but I've always hated that suit. So I literally was like, no, in my audio drama, it's very much reference that he is just Magneto without his helmet on, because that is fine. I don't need the stupid spandex suit with a giant M. Credit to the show for doing it. I had the scene where Kitty Pryde literally, the joke scene where Kitty gives that suit to him, that Magneto literally receives this suit from Kitty in our version of Trial of Magneto, and he says, oh, that's very nice, and he puts it in his closet and never wear it again. That was my acknowledgement to that suit. And in my version, he doesn't wear it, he just takes his helmet off because it's stupid. Dan Rodwell, House of the Ring, X-Men 97 blew me away. Totally agree with getting these amazing stories rather than the fourth or fifth version of Dark Phoenix. Well, yeah, which I wish somebody would make a good version of it in live action, but it's never going to happen now because they keep doing terrible. Peace King says, it's like you stole Big Brother's toys and 30 years later Big Brother came back and took them. Yeah, pretty much, or at least 10 years. Dan Robert says, absolutely love all your audio dramas. I have downloaded them all onto my old school iPod so I can listen to them in the car and at work. That's awesome. I mean, the fact that you're using an iPod, you're making it harder for yourself having to use MP3 files. Just get a smartphone, dude. Just get a smartphone and you can just listen to them on Spotify or Apple Podcasts there or any of the apps. I think I might even have it on Stitcher. Is that still a thing? I've got them on all of those. Some weird things. Zach says, "Give me Cypher accounts." I don't think they'll do Cypher. If we're not getting Kitty Pryde on the team, we're definitely not getting Cypher. J.C. Smith says, "Damn you, damn you." Damn you. Yeah, probably a good idea. Okay, it was referencing something I was probably talking about earlier on. Sorry about that. Dan Rubber says, yes, they did Cyclops dirty in the original comic. The TV series is insane. Did Scott just have a baby with Madeline and they doesn't even know? Yeah, again, because like this is the cleaner, better version of it. Like even the my show, I'm not going to do Cyclops that dirty in my version, but make him such a jerk. But I've got to do some version of that because Jean's going to come back, as I said, and that's not a spoiler. The end of the last episode, they find the cocoon in Jamaica Bay. So I've got to do some version of that. Whereas this show gets to do an even cleaner version of it, where he's had a baby with Madeline Pryor and he doesn't even know. And if you want my predictions for what I think is going to happen, I think that the Jean that we have had in this show has been Madeline Pryor all along in these 2 episodes, and she's been some sort of sleeper agent for Mr. Sinister, and the Jean that just showed up at the door is the actual Jean. And it's going to be, which is kind of what the original story was, but again, much cleaner because she didn't die during Dark Phoenix and all that. So, Dan Robert says, insane, a good way. Yep. Also, Rogue and Gambit, Magneto Love Triangle is awesome. Real X drama. Love your audio show. It feels like the comic accurate with a few updates. Well, yeah, that's what I tried to do. And then occasionally going, if there's something I don't want to adapt because it's dated, like Magneto's costume or Colossus getting together with an underage Kitty Pryde, it's like, why, Claremont, why? And I just, hang a lampshade on it and go, I'm not doing that. But yeah, for the most part, I'm very comic accurate. To be honest, the most change I ever did, other than First Class stuff, because Silver Age, lol, I had to change a lot about the Silver Age stuff, but to make it in line with what came later. But apart from that, the most change I ever did was not have the Phoenix thing on the space shuttle and all that, and the Shi'ar coming in later in the Phoenix saga. But that was a very minor change. That was just for logistical reasons of back when I started this show, I didn't want it to be really in like a wider Marvel universe. So because it was at the time when, X-Men were Days of Future Past to come out. X-Men's fantastic by itself. We don't need any of the Marvel characters. Whereas I've softened a lot on that, which you can tell in season 3, because boy oh boy, do the Marvel references suddenly turn up, and now we're doing an Avengers audio drama, so. Or at least Mitch's with Joey. Yeah. The love triangle with Rogue is interesting. Again, that's from an era that I haven't got to yet. Which, I mean, if the show keeps going, it'll probably be at the end of this season, that era, where Gambit comes in and stuff, and Psylocke and all that. Psylocke turns into... I'm not sure I'm going to do Psylocke turning into Quanon, just because it's weird. But that whole, Jim Lee's come on board, but he's, it's not that... Hang on, let me try and turn my chair so you can see it. That comic. The one where the issue number 1 version. Let me see. I got a rug of it for my birthday. That one that rebooted it, which was like Claremont's last one before Jim Lee took over as the writer, and it was sort of the Image era of Marvel where the writing got really bad, and Rob Liefeld was like the main guy, and nobody had feet. So yeah, it was pre that when Magneto and Rogue hooked up. So I haven't got to that yet. So I'm very interested to see where they go with it here. And having it be a love triangle and Gambit is fantastic. Because Rogue isn't inherently doing something wrong. Like, she is within her rights to Count Magneto, because like as much as obviously you can see it as a betrayal, Remy can see it as a betrayal. Like it's not like her and Magneto kissed; they just like touched hands, right? We don't know that they kissed, although they obviously allude to a history, a thing in the past. But it's not like she's cheated on him, and they're not even really together. And also, you can see it from Rogue's point of view. There's this guy that I can physically touch, obviously because of his powers or something. So why, for her, she can have a much more real, intimate relationship with him than she can with Remy. So. Let's get weird and do maggot, says Rob. Again, they do reference gold balls in this one, so there are some references to it. I also noticed there was an Easter egg of on the outside where that place where the Friends of Humanity are and the X-Men first battle with them. There is a poster of Marrow, which is interesting, which is the character that Spike from Evolution was based on. So they are getting a lot of Easter egg services there. So you can have those YouTube videos with the yellow arrows pointing at them, going, 5 Easter eggs you missed, 500 Easter eggs. Yeah. Nick Larbrook, hey Nathan, you think they'll bring Iceman into 97? I think it just one appearance in the original show being disappointing. No, he was in the original show. It was one episode. Go back and watch it. It was actually a good episode. Like his characterization was a bit weird because he was all about Lorna Dane and fuck everybody else. He was very sort of childish, but like the episode was good, and it was the episode that fully established that the First Class were a thing, which was like, oh, cool. And I've always loved. That's why I love X-Men. I'm a lore guy. I like complex continuity in canon. And that's why I like Star Trek. It's why I like all these things. I like it where the universe continues evolving like a soap opera, and the characters remember everything that you've watched, and their history in media is the history of them as if they're real people. And that's why I love X-Men for that reason. And it's why some of the newer stuff puts me off, because it's just like, fuck it, they're all back alive. It's like, okay. Yeah. But yeah, the Iceman episode was very good, Nathan. Like, check it out. Like, it was Cold Comfort, it's called. It's quite a good adaptation of him. Maybe not as a character, but in terms of like getting into his history and a lot of first class Easter eggs in that. Lance says, what if they bring in the Marauders? I mean, I don't think that's possible, given that the Morlocks have just gone to Genosha, which they're doing the early 2000s. What was it, Wolverine, the X-Men, the Genosha as a, after they get over their mutant hating stuff, become like this mutant nation run by Magneto. They're getting into that stuff. So now the Morlocks aren't there. Like, I don't see I mean, they can have them they had the Marauders in the original show, I'm pretty sure. Oh no, they weren't called the Marauders, right? They were called the Nasty Boys. But yeah, they were the Marauders. They were Sinister's crew in the original. And that, I mean, maybe they could have the Marauders go in and just slaughter people in Genosha or something. But I very much feel like the way the show is going, it'd be more like, a country would nuke them or something, rather than, which is what happened in the original book, obviously. Which obviously, that's all a very complex thing. Rapport Grant Morrison's room. Zach Amson, I'm starting to realise why my favourite X-Men characters are forgotten ones. Iceman, Cypher, Angel. Yeah, I mean, Angel less so. I mean, he got a cameo in this as Archangel, which the reason he was blue, as you don't remember, is in the 90s, his transformation into Archangel hadn't been, like, later on he gets cured of that, and he gets his old wings back, and he can flip between the two, in fact. It's kind of like a Beast, kind of Jack and Hyde sort of thing. But in the 90s, he hadn't been cured of that, which is why he still has the metal wings from being turned into Archangel, which is cool because it shows like scars of what Apocalypse did to him. So, Dan Rodwell again. It's so crazy. The last episode was the Jewel and Storm losing the powers, and we've just seen it on the show. Imagine if they did a Storm versus Cyclops in the show. I'm not sure if they will. I don't know. I'm predicting that after Life Death, we're going to get Storm in the vest and the spikes and the punk Storm look, probably. I don't know if they're going to have the Jewel necessarily, although they're kind of hinting at it with the Madeline storyline in this episode. They were kind of alluding to that. Again, I spoke about it at length at the start of this stream. The fact that they're adapting the same stories as me is so strange, and but it's good. Because they're doing their own thing and they're not following the comics. It's not like my show where you tune into my show and it's like, I know where this is going. You know, if you've read the comics or know anything about the future of the X-Men. So it's not like that. They're doing their own thing where they can go the way of the comics, but they don't have to, and they necessarily won't, or at least they'll do it in their own way. Like, absolutely, do I think that the gene that we have that is Madeline Pryor and she's being controlled by Sinister and made by Sinister, just like the books? Yes, absolutely. That's what I think is happening. But again, having her as more of a sleeper agent where Scott actually believes she's Jean, and how long she's been taken over for Jean, that'll change everything, right? Like, when did she get replaced? It can't be Dark Phoenix because Jean lived in that. But she was not in the show very much after that. She was very sporadically in the show after Dark Phoenix saga, in fact, for the last couple of seasons. So there's at any point she could have been replaced. Like, is Cyclops going to find out? Oh, what? God damn it! Again, Mr. Sinister stopped me from marrying Jean. Like, he stopped the wedding the first time by pretending to the priest, and now I got married to Jean finally, and it wasn't Jean again. And the second wedding didn't count because of Mr. Sinister. Like, is he going to find out he actually married Madeline Pryor? Oh, man. Like, third time's the charm of that one, right? But also, Mr. Sinister just will not let Jean and Scott get married, apparently. He's like the Dan Posada, whatever, the guy who did the One More Day with Spider-Man. No, you can't evolve. You've got to stay young and single, or at least just young couple. So I've got something to catch up on. Where do I think the Madeline Jean switch happened in the original series? Seems weird that Sinister replaced Jean and catch Madeline again in the season 4 finale. That makes sense, right? The season 4 finale. That actually makes a lot of sense. If he captured Jean in the season 4 finale, that could have been when the switch happened. Yeah. Yeah, that would make a lot of sense. Also, me and Oscar just watched this, and he brought this up in the reaction video that we did for the Patreon. Wasn't the guy who shot Xavier originally? I didn't think that was Gyrick. I thought that was Graydon Creed who shot him. I mean, I might be wrong with that, and Oscar might be wrong, but they're saying it was. But he didn't have the glasses on, at least in the. I mean, obviously the weird animation. Xavier was in that blue suit, and it was in this awful season 5 animation. But I might be remembering it wrong, whether it was Graydon Creed or not. But nobody else pointed that out as a plot hole, so I'm assuming it was him. But he didn't look like him. He didn't have Gyrick's glasses on, at least, when he did it. I went back and watched the scene. So, do you think they'll introduce Shadowcat, or is Jubilee still here? Again, I said that earlier in the stream. That would have been, if I had been tasked to do the show, that's the first thing I would have done, is brought Colossus, Nightcrawler, and Kitty Pryde to the team, just to make it more in line with the X-Men that everybody knows. It's like this show introduced everybody to X-Men, but that was always the weird outlier, was those 3 characters were on the team. So to me, I would fix that. And they are doing it with Nightcrawler, but yeah. In the comics, Magneto uses his power so that Rogue can touch him. I know Rogue and Magneto were together in the Age of Apocalypse, but that's alternate reality. Yeah, I think they were together for a bit in the Savage Land, right during the Muir Island saga, which led straight into the the Jubilee reboot. So I think they were definitely sort of hinted at together. It's a weird thing though, right? Because if she hooked up with him when she was with Mystique, that means that she was a teenager or a young adult at least, and Magneto was like, what, 50, 60? That's a bit weird. That's getting into weird Colossus, Kitty Pryde territory, and that, the reason I'm not adapting the early parts of that relationship, because that's. I hope it was more recent than that. I mean, the age gap is still ridiculous, but at least it's not as bad. I hope it wasn't when she was with Mystique. Let's put it that way. In your version, Quanon and Betsy Braddock going to be merged together. Yeah, I mean, in my head, like I have the British accent in as the episode we released a few months ago. In my head, why can't she just be Asian to begin with? You know, like sure, I won't be able to do those stories, but do we really need that story? Is it essential to the character? You know, to have her be body swapped to make her Asian? Like, to me, why can't she just be an Asian British woman? I mean, then Captain Britain could be her stepbrother or adopted brother. There's no reason that she can't just be. So again, that's something I want to work out in my head. And it's like with bringing Jean back, and I was debating that. It's how many stories can't happen if I don't do this. How much will this affect the canon going forward if I don't make her Quanon? And as far as I know, and this maybe just being a layman and being very blank on the 90s, because like when I reread the original comics, as soon as as Claremont left, I was like, oh no, this has got bad, and skipped ahead to the Grant Morrison run, so I've got a massive blank spot, which is the 90s era, because I just couldn't deal with the art and the storytelling, which is ironic considering this is the show that got me into X-Men, right? But they were using the Chris Claremont stories. But yeah, this may be me as a layman being blank on the 90s, but I don't think it affects that much to not have Psylocke just be an Asian British woman rather than switching bodies with Quanon. Yeah. Iceman's in the portrait of the original team. Yes, he is. It's his little snowman form, which is how the Wolverine and the X-Men got around that, where they basically pretended like it was a different Iceman. That was, we'll get to that on the Patreon at some point. That was weird, where they're like, oh yeah, the first class was a thing, but the Iceman on the team at the minute is the Iceman like from the movies where he's younger, but there was another Iceman that was like a snowman in the first class. Not as weird as Warren when they don't know who he is, and then we find out he was on the team, but yeah. Again, that's when me and Oscar spoke about it. That was because in season 1 they didn't know how much of a future the show would have, and when they got into later seasons, they decided they wanted to do the first class as a thing and had to majorly retcon because of that. Did a late Lodbrok? Yeah, it was a good episode. It was more so the meaning of disappointment that he was never appeared again. Oh yeah, like yeah, Iceman. Yeah. Yes, I want to see Iceman, and I said this on the thing with Oscar as well. Like, if your whole thing is inclusion, then Iceman's gay now, right? So there is no, if you want it, bring a core character, but have a reason to like have a character of inclusivity. Like there's it right there with Iceman. But again, I'd rather have Colossus first, personally, just because it feels weird, man, to have the comic accurate X-Men team that doesn't have Colossus on it. It's bizarre. Or Kitty for that matter. Tier isn't here. Stem cell research. Okay, I'm not sure what that was in reference to. It might be something else pointed out earlier on. Chris Hype speaking as a Spider-Man fan, going through they were a clone all along route rarely works for the best. It does, but I think that is what they're doing. And I don't think she was a clone all along. I think she was a clone for these 2 episodes. I think she was replaced at the end of season 4. And that's the original story. That, although in the original, as in my show, she just looks like Jean, and everybody goes, that's weird, but she's a different woman. Which is why I didn't, that, and along with the fact that she's very busy, and I don't even know if she's able to come back to play Jean. It's the reason I didn't get Natalie Winters to play Madeline Pryor, because it would have been too on the nose for people who didn't know. So. Also, Madeline Pryor is way like that's majorly retconned and clumsy because of the Jean return, but it's nowhere near as bad as Ben Reilly or in that Clone Saga stuff. That was, yep, bad. Dan Robel, also let me just say a massive thank you for producing your show. It's high quality. I'm so grateful you're producing it. Also love the decade by decade sessions on X-Men history. So awesome. This is why the comics are so unique. there's no other medium that has 6+ years continuity and storylines. Yeah, I agree. That's why I like it. I think it's got a bit weird now because they brought everybody back and kind of reset everything, and that's what's turned me off from the modern books. But like around the sort of astonishing era was like, oh, that's like peak X-Men for me, where they've got all the best parts of the continuity and they're building forwards from it and doing unique stuff. I know Joss Whedon's a bad person these days, but that was like my favorite sort of, it kind of reminds me of what this show is. It's building on the past, but also doing new stuff, which is fantastic. Yeah, thank you about the show. Like, I know at this point, X-Men is not like Power Rangers, where it's coming out every 2 months or whatever. I know X-Men is, once in a blue moon. That's just down to the cast. That's just down to them all being very successful these days. And like Sam Devereaux, he's narrated every single episode, and I don't want to lose him. And he is a very busy man with his audiobooks and stuff. So I know that the episodes come out every 4 or 5 months. I towards the end of the season 3 got better with that, and it got down to about 2 or 3 months. But like, it's never going to be as consistent as Power Rangers. I know that, but whenever I have time to come back to it, and whenever the cast have time to come back to it, we're just going to keep going. It kind of feels more like a special event, right? When X-Men comes out, it's like, oh, a new X-Men is like a prestige omnibus sort of thing, or like a movie. It's like a feature film, which is what the episodes are longer. And yeah, like, it's not what it was back in the day when I was getting an episode out every 2 or 3 weeks. But it isn't possible for me or the cast. If this was our job and I could go away for 6 months and produce this show, and it was my job and it was their job, and we made all the episodes together and I could release them weekly, like, yeah, that would be ideal, but it's not the feasible way of doing it, unfortunately. So Pete's King, they could make it the Mystique was pretending to be Gyrick. Maybe I was confused in the reaction. I was like, did Xavier come back from the Shi'ar and actually get shot by Gyrick? But it seems like they're making out that no, that was that was the end of season 5's thing, where he got shot and like his powers went into overload and he was dying and he went off with Landra, kind of like in X-Men 200. I think that's what they're getting at, but again, like, it would be weird if he came back and got like, oh, and also Gyrick. But again, because he didn't wear his glasses and the animation was bad, I couldn't tell that was supposed to be Gyrick, and I couldn't remember that it was Gyrick in season 5, and I was seem to think it was Graydon Creed. So either that's been retconned, or Xavier came back to get shot at some point between season 5 and this. Lance, love the audio drama. When's the next episode coming out? When are you announcing actors portraying the Marauders in the next episode? I kind of just addressed that. I have got most of the lines for Mutant Massacre Part 1. I've got some of the ones for Part 2 because I've given the scripts for Part 1 and Part 2 now. But I'm still waiting on a couple for and as soon as I get those, like, I think 3 people's lines for Mutant Massacre, I'll put it into production and start editing it. But again, I am, don't get me wrong, I am getting on people to get me them, but I'm not as I don't expect it to be as consistent as the other shows. In terms of the Marauders and stuff, I know I haven't really announced the cast or anything like that. That's just because there were so many good ones, and when I'm listening to them, I'm like, it's not like Wolverine where I know the voice that I want. So it's almost like I can't until I edit the episode. I'm not going to be like, that's the voice that's good for this character. You know what I mean? So for those like Marauders and stuff, I'm just like, okay, that sounds like the best voice I'll go with. But there are 10, there are 3 other voices that are just as good, and that's the problem. Like the ones that were the standouts, and I decided I'd already cast, like Tommy and some of the others who went, like the really good voice actors, like came forward and but the ones that I knew straight away when I heard, like Catherine Sharples is going to play Tommy and stuff like that, I got in touch with them already and have confirmed that. But for the others, it's a bit more difficult, and I just need to basically make a decision and go, I'm going to go with that voice because of this, and I can't come up with any other reason than just I like the performance and the audio quality, as opposed to the usual thing where it's a character that I have a distinct voice in my head for because it's one of the big X-Men, but I'm like, that is the voice. Like, those are the voice, you are cast. Ben Riley, externally extremely says that, yeah. Dabo, I'm not a Power Ranger fan, although I'm an X-Men fan. I started listening to your Avengers. We'll probably listen to all those shows tonight. Quality up to date with your X-Men. For those who just watch the X-Men show, I know it's our most popular show by far. I apologize that it's not as consistent as it used to be. It is literally just like the main show that we produce is the Power Rangers show, and it has been since I came back. X-Men I brought back because the demand was there for it, but I don't necessarily, it's not a thing that me or the cast have the time for that we used to have for it, which is why it's a once in a blue moon thing. It's a, let me do this around the schedule of Power Rangers. Do you know what I mean? And since the Patreon started, I made sure to have it more consistent. At the minute, I am hounding the actors in emails and things. I'm messaging them all the time and to get the lines to me. A couple of them just haven't for whatever reason, and they're just busy people. If it gets to a point that I've been waiting for the lines for 6 months, like, I'll obviously have to make a change or a call, but I'm not gonna complain because they're doing it for free at the end of the day. So it'll be out when it's out. As I say, I've got most of the lines. I'm only waiting on 2 or 3 for X-Men, for Mutant Massacre Part 1, and then I can start doing it. So, I guess also I'll put in the title an update on the shows. So, everything's in various stages. I've been editing an episode of East Haven 8 Chapter 3 for about a month, and I put this into our Discord the other week. It's a motivation thing of I was having a bout where I was really tired all the time, and I put it on Twitter out there. People said that sounds like burnout, and I was like, okay, that's possibly what it is. And literally, like, in my head, there's like a priority order of the shows, and East Haven is obviously after Power Rangers and X-Men, because it's just it's an original project, but it's like it hasn't got the following that the shows have. So I was like, last week I was like, I'm going a week off. I'm going to do it, get down to it. But I I wasn't in the right headspace. I got a couple of scenes done, but I wasn't in the space to do it. And for about a month, I've been gradually working on it, but it's not at my usual pace. And I think it was, again, I didn't know what to call it, but when people put burnout on it, I think that's what it was. So again, like, these shows are obviously free and stuff, so I'm not under any pressure to get them out as soon as I can. The Patreon stuff makes me go, obviously I've got to make sure I do it eventually because there's an audience for it and then, all that kind of stuff. But the patrons are getting their weekly podcasts and everything. I'm still always active with that. So I feel like they're getting their money's worth from me continuing to do all the side stuff. But the main shows, I just was kind of burnt out on doing for a couple of weeks, which is why East Haven's taken so long to edit. But I've edited the 2 biggest scenes of it, so like I've literally just got to have time tomorrow to finish off the other scenes. So I apologize, people have been waiting for that. And again, same. I've started to kind of my mind works sometimes very one track. And sometimes I'm very focused on X-Men. Sometimes I'm very focused on Power Rangers. And it's like, this is what I want. This is what I'm enjoying. This is what I'm in. And I've started over the last week or so to help me get in. I was like, this is not fair to the fans of the cast of East Haven for me to keep putting it off. I need to get myself in the headspace to want to get to it as the priority. So over the last week or so, I've been watching movies and shows and to get me and getting me back into that mindset of like, so I can start just hammering out the editing, hammering out the next scripts. But again, it's the third on the priority order sort of thing. So I am absolutely doing it. It's just a case of I need to be in the right headspace, because if it becomes a case of I'm editing these and it feels like a job, then, or it feels like, which it kind of is at this point because obviously the Patreon stuff and that, but if it gets to a point that I'm doing it and it feels like a slog as I'm doing it and I just want to get through it, which is how I was feeling when I started editing the last episode, then it's not enjoyable anymore and it's not fun anymore. And what am I doing it for? And that's what happened when I went away from X-Men the first time. It just wasn't fun anymore. So I want to make sure to avoid that happening again. And I'm so appreciative to you guys and the rest of the audience, and to especially the Patreon backers who continue to support me in the down periods. But yes, I am absolutely doing it. I'm making sure to get myself in the motivation and the headspace, and it's working. I've got many ideas for what I want to do with those scripts. As soon as I've got episode 3 edited of the next X7, bang, I will get on to writing the next scripts as I wait for the last X-Men and Power Rangers to come in. But I keep going off on bloody tangents and train of thoughts. But yeah, so that episode is next. I've literally got like a third of the episode left to edit. That'll be next. X-Men, as I said, I've got most of the lines for Music Massacre Part 1. I'm literally waiting on like 3 people who I've contacted them. I've bugged them about it, but it's a free project. I can't exactly be an asshole about it. If it takes too long, obviously I'll do what I've got to do, but yeah. And Power Rangers, I've just sent out the script. I was waiting for my script editor on the final 2 scripts of season 3. So there's only going to be 2. There's not an episode 12 this year, just because I wanted to make up for the fact that we had the hiatus due to the strike, and kind of fold some of my ideas into 1 episode instead of 2. So there's a 2-part finale is coming for Power Rangers season 3, which will be the end of the Mighty Morphin era. Those scripts went out to the cast this week. They are currently recording that. That show is the consistent one that I am always enjoying. Always is the one that I want to get out first and foremost, because the feedback on that one is fantastic. And X-Men is the prestige show that I enjoy doing, but I enjoy Power Rangers more for all the reasons I've said in the past. Like, it's more creative for me because I'm getting to do more of my own original stuff, whereas X-Men I'm much more adapting the comic books. So, like, as soon as that's ready, I will get to work on that, and I can't wait to do so. So yeah, X-Men almost got all the lines. East Haven's being edited. And Power Rangers, they're currently in production right now, and not only just 1 episode, but 2 episodes. So as soon as episode 10 comes out, boom, 11 will follow quickly after. So it'll make up for, like with when we came back from the strike hiatus, how episodes just were like boom, 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 one after the other. It'll be like that when we finally do produce those last 2. But the good news is there is one thing that is done, which is Joey has managed to finish off episode 2 of Avengers audio drama. So that'll be coming out next week, which is Captain America Part 1. So yeah, the second full episode of Avengers is next week. East Haven will probably be around next week or week after at some point as well. And then shortly after, hopefully X-Men, and then the Power Rangers and all that kind of stuff. So things are still happening. Even if the YouTube channel isn't active, things are always happening. If I am not editing or producing, I am always conversing with the cast. I'm always emailing them I'm always writing scripts. Even if I'm not editing or producing a show currently, the shows are always at various stages of the production line. The production line, they get slowed down by one cog in the wheel at some point, but something is always happening. All these shows are still happening. Trial of Bruce Wayne will eventually come back, I'm sure, eventually. I just got these other stuff I want to do first. So I just know it's a motivation thing. These are passion projects. And if I don't have the passion to do them, I won't do them. I will do them as long. People have asked me how long will Power Rangers go? As long as it is fun. Same for X-Men. These are shows that I do because I enjoy them, and I will do them as long as they are fun and they are passion projects. I will work at my own pace, and they come out for free. So people who hound me for releases and things like that can get stuffed. I will get them out when they're done. So that's just how it is. But don't get me wrong, I do feel the pressure of getting them out, especially with the Patreon stuff, and I am always hounding the actors. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to be a dick to people who are doing things for free for me, which are things that are using skills that they get paid for in other. They're taking time out of getting paid for their day job basically to do these shows for me, and I'm not going to be like, hey, what the hell? It's been 2 months. You haven't got with the lines. Do you know what I mean? I'm not going to be an asshole. Right, sorry, I went off on a long thing there. Dan Robel, what are the shows you haven't yet? Okay, I kind of answered that one just. Tom Williams, you absolutely had burnout. I told, by the way. I absolutely had burnout in a way. I'm glad I did reboot. I'm glad you did it, as it was real my arse to help me. Okay, yeah, because I've also got the other project, which is the sister channel, which is the wrestling thing. And I was like, because he started up a third brand that I was editing. So I was editing like basically a wrestling show a week, and that was really not helping. So thank you, Tom, for doing your own shows now. It lets me have a break from those. So like I said, even with show things about acting on this channel, I was working on stuff for other channels. So like, again, there's only so much I can, and like I have a full-time job that I work 40 hours a week at. So some days I get home and I'm just exhausted, and I have not got the motivation to do anything. And like if I didn't have that day job, these things would, like, as soon as I have the lines, I would get an episode edited in 2 days. But I do have a day job, so this fits around my schedule when I can. Hello, Brooke. Take care of yourself. Take care of yourself. It's most important. Also, I want to stress again that I'm proud of you for taking a chance on yourself on a original project. Yeah, thank you. It's turning out really, really good. But as I explained to a couple of people, and kind of what I just got into there, or alluded to, was I know that there are hundreds of Power Rangers fans waiting for that audio drama. I know there are thousands of X-Men fans waiting for that. East Haven is, the people who are really into it are the people who are into it at the minute. He hasn't really found a massive audience. So it's a passion project that I'm really into, but it's when I have the time to do it. Whereas the other ones have got a waiting audience that I owe it to finish what I've started to. Do you know what I mean? At least with Power Rangers, we've got 2 episodes left of the season, and then we can take a bit of a hiatus until Zeo. That was a spoiler, I guess. Come on, if you know. But we'll take a bit of a hiatus until season 4. So I want to get those done. But yeah, now, as I said, I've been doing, my mind works on a very sort of one-track thing. So I've been making sure to get that track on the East Haven 8 mindset. And then X-Men 97 came out, and I'm like, oh, I love X-Men again. But I have been conditioning myself so that I can not only get episode 3 edited, but start getting the other scripts written. But thank you. I appreciate so much you guys, the creatives and the cast, for hanging in with me while I'm taking so long between writing episodes and editing episodes. Because again, I fully intended the episode to be out a month ago, and I just didn't have the motivation to do it because I was just feeling burnt out. That's just how it is. But thank you, Nathan. Dan Robwell, do you have physical media X-Men or graphic novel collection? Are you a digital? Have you bookshelves of X-Men omnibus and trades, official stuff to the end of the Bendis run, so not up to date? I have a couple, but I did mostly read them on digital. When I went back and read the old stuff, I ain't buying those. Jesus, I mean, the omnibuses are even themselves very expensive. No, I read them on digital when I read the old stuff, but people have bought me trades of various runs that I've read. So I've got a couple, but not a huge collection. My thing's much more, as you can probably see behind me, my thing is much more models and collectibles and that kind of stuff rather than books. Because I'm just not a real physical media person. I'm not really a hipster with that kind of stuff. So, yeah. Like, I enjoy the story, how I enjoy it. I don't care how it gets into my eyeballs. Which is probably why I like audio dramas. Tom Williams says, I absolutely love working user for you. How you have so much going blows up your mind. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. It just gets me down when I see people paying for a project and I'm like, I owe it to them to get it done, but I'm also waiting on the cast. They're doing it for free and they aren't getting paid for it. And I'm like, I can get in my head about it and be like, oh, why am I not doing this? Why am I not getting them out quicker? I deserve to get them out quicker. I should get them out quicker. The audience are waiting for this. What's going on? It's been 2 months. We haven't released an episode. But I have to say to myself, I have to be as blunt as I was earlier about it. I have to say, look, you're doing this for free. The Patreon thing is to support you, to help you pay for the bandwidth costs and stuff. Like, at the end of this year, I've got it down to a yearly thing with the podcasting fees for X-Men. I got quite a good deal on it, but at the end of this year, every year I've got to pay $300 out for the X-Men feed and stuff like that. So like the money I get from the Patreon helps support me with the Adobe costs, because you can't just have Adobe anymore. You've got to pay for this. You've got to rent the suite from Adobe every month. All those stuff that are costs to me making the shows. And now I've got a Patreon. I've got to pay tax on that, and I had to pay a massive bunch of it to the government and stuff like that. So it has become a second job in the eyes of the government and a lot of other things. So, and I am producing 2 podcast episodes every single week for that Patreon for X-Men and Power Rangers. So, I feel like, guys, again, I know I haven't done as much original fiction and behind the scenes stuff as when it first started, but there's hundreds of hours of stuff on that now. Where was I going? So yeah, I can get in my head about it and be like, why haven't I released an episode in months and months and months? But I just have to say to myself, I'll get to it when I get to it, when I have time. I've got a full-time job. I've got all these other projects and things like that. I've just got to make sure that it stays fun and I don't burn myself out, but also be appreciative of the actors. Because if I'm messaging them every day going, why have we got my lines? Why have we got my lines? They're going to tell me to fuck off, So, yeah, sure. Do I wish that somebody would communicate more and get there's a couple of people that getting lines from is like pulling teeth. Absolutely, I wish that was not the case. But they're so good. So, and they are my friends at this point, and I am not going to be an asshole about it. If it comes to a point that I have got no communication with somebody's not getting in touch with me and let me know what's going on, and they don't give me the stuff, then I'll recast. But that is a last resort, given how long we've been doing this stuff together. So, yeah. Tamara said, never had a Patreon. It's so great. It's popped on a live stream. First time I've seen you live. Wish you had so much success with these audio dramas on this episode. Oh, thank you very much. Oh, don't get me wrong. The fact that there are podcasts out there reviewing my shows, or the fact that people, tens of thousands of people are listening on Spotify now to X-Men is blowing my little mind. And the fact that some people were like, it is possible that the producers of this show are aware of your show. Obviously not what we just produced, but it's possible that somebody that works on this show could have listened to yours. The fact that that is a possibility is mind-blowing to me. I'm just a guy who just does this stuff as a fan, and I'm just making the shows that I want to hear as a fan. So the fact that there are, I popped this live stream up, an hour ago, I decided to do this, and you guys just all popped in, at me doing it out of nowhere. That's so awesome. And the fact that our Discord has got 100 members, and it's a really active, friendly Discord, and everybody's so awesome on that. And all the nice comments I get on the live streams and the premieres and stuff, it's so humbling and mind blowing to me, and that's why I want that. I'll be straight up. I was never intending to bring X-Men back. It was a thing I wasn't really motivated to do which is why I got burnt out on it. But the support and the following and when I realized how many people were listening and how many people loved it, that's what made me bring it back, and that's what makes me continue with it. Like, I was going to finish after Dark Phoenix, I was going to finish after season 3. Like, I'm keep going because of you guys and your support. And so, like, always make sure to, like, all those people who hit me up on Twitter and stuff. Like, I know, especially lately, I'm terrible at getting back to people when they get me lines and auditions and stuff. But you have to remember that I'm getting, a lot of those now. Like the last casting call I did for East Haven, like, boy, oh boy, oh boy, I was getting 30 messages a day. Like, it got crazy. I have to, it comes to a point where I can only reply to so many people, but know that I read and every time, like, a nice comment pops up one of the videos, I don't always, I can't love heart them all or whatever, because then it wouldn't be special if I did it for all of them. But I see them all and I appreciate them all. And you are the reason that I keep going. You are the reason that we have covered all of the Mighty Morphin Era Power Rangers. You are the reason that X-Men has continued to go. It came back after the hiatus. You're the reason it carried on after Dark Phoenix. It's the other reason that season 3 got completed. You're the reason season 4 went into production. So please continue with your nice messages and your support, and keep sharing our show around, because it gets me motivated to do it and not get, like, it would be very easy for me to go, this show is not paying the bills, this job is not paying the bills, it is a side thing, I've got to focus on getting a better job in my full-time job in my real life and all that kind of stuff. And it'd be very easy for me to just drop it. But because of your guys' support, and I don't mean just monetarily, the guys who support my Patreon, thank you so much. But just a like or a comment, especially comments and things like that on the YouTube videos, and when everybody sends me nice messages saying how awesome the shows are and tweets and everything else, that's what keeps me going. That's what motivates me, and that's what keeps the shows on the air. And without them, that would be, if I was feeling like I was talking to an echo chamber, then the shows wouldn't continue. So, and that's why I need to motivate myself with East Haven, because as good as I like it, as good as me and the cast all love it, it hasn't got that big audience. So if you enjoy that kind of show, if you want to see like an original show that's LGBT friendly and that kind of stuff, and want to enjoy that show, please share it around. If I got loads of comments on that show as much as I did on X-Men Power Rangers, I would be all the time motivated and I wouldn't get burnt out on doing it. So Dan Rodwell says, that's cool. I don't have any collectibles other than a pretty big collection of X-Men Funko Pops. Was it to buy X-Men 97 Marvel Legends line and ever an action figure? Yeah, so those ones over there, I'll try to move. Those ones over there are the, other than the Marvel girl, which is why she's weirdly small, are the ones that Diamond Select did, because they were just kind of in, I would go to like Forbidden Planet and they would just be there. And so I started collecting those, and they were quite easy to get at the time, so which is why I got those ones. Zach says, commit tax form for your free fashion projects. Big brain moves right there. Yeah, no. I paid the government because I don't want to. I would rather be like, it was a self-assessment. Like, I did it voluntarily. I voluntarily let them know that I had a Patreon and I was getting money for it. Because I'd rather that than, 2 years down the line, have a massive bill and face legal troubles. So, yeah. Tom Williams, and the YouTuber who inspired by the wrestling thing blows my mind. Yeah. That's awesome, because that was the shows that I did for years and years and years, was those wrestling review shows that became the fantasy shows, which is what led into this, weirdly, because I would edit audio. We do like an audio, what we kind of do now, but we did it in audio, where I would put together wrestling shows as like audio dramas, sort of live action ones. Not live action, but live streamed ones that we do as like a podcast, and like 10 people in the world would listen, including Tom and Glenn, who are now like on the show, which is why obviously it stopped. But like, I'm glad that as much as only 100 people are subscribed to that sister channel, I'm glad that some people still enjoy it. It's a fun little side nerdy project. Yeah, even for this, it's very nerdy and niche for this stuff. Zach says he said a fun break every week would be, and the others on the Patreon version. Oh yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed those shows, and that makes me feel like at least I'm giving the patrons every week. I'm giving them 2 episodes of something. So even if I'm not producing Power Rangers, I'm talking about Power Rangers every week. We're watching every single show of every single series of X-Men and Power Rangers. Whoa, boy, that's a slog sometimes, but it's a lot of fun with you guys. I appreciate you, Zach, so much, and all those guys who do that with me every week. So it wouldn't. If it was just me doing it, it would be very boring. As much as sometimes it becomes a one-man show, me ranting over you all, but it wouldn't be fun without you guys. So, number one, I'm not just saying this, but I was so impressed by the quality of those X-Men audio dramas. It just doesn't feel like fan fiction. Well, thank you. That was always my goal, and obviously the season 1 stuff is not up to the audio quality wise. It's not up to the quality of season 2 and onwards, and a lot of stuff that especially since I came out with Rangers, the audio quality is everybody's got to be at least on the the Natalie Winters on the Rose scale. Otherwise, we have a problem. Recording on your iPhone is no longer a thing that I will accept. But the fact that even with the days where Polaris sounded like she was at the bottom of a pool shouting her lines up, people enjoy it then. So the fact that they've just continued to get better and better and better. Like if you go back and listen to my Star Trek one, the Lost Enterprise one, boy oh boy, that sounds like some people are on their phone. So yeah. If Marvel wants to create something like this themselves, I don't see a studio could do it better. As the same quality of some of the BBC radio dramas. Oh, thank you very much. Back in the day, I wouldn't have agreed with that, but nowadays, I think our stuff sounds very good. Now that we've got all these amazing actors and stuff, and our actors are so authentically sound like the original characters. I think Oscar is better as Sunspot than the guy who played him in this. Let's put it that way. I thought the accent was better on Oscar. So. Happy to wait for each episode. It's a high quality project, and for it just not to end. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Look, the goal would be it to become my full-time job, but it's not going to happen anytime soon. So, and doing original stuff like East Haven is how that happens. So, I need to kick myself up the ass and continue to do it. So, yeah. Tom says he'll absolutely accept flowers as an OG fan of me. Oh, thank you. I'm glad that people enjoy my ramblings. It's just me. Back then, it was just me sitting in my bedroom at my family's home, talking into my phone. Now it's me sitting in my own place doing it with all the stuff of the shows that I do behind me and around me to motivate me and keep me on the horse, as it were. Yeah, I mean, I've kind of said it all. I feel like I've just kind of gone off on one about the shows at this point, rather than really speaking about X-Men '97. It was awesome. I can't really say more than that. If you want a more detailed, in-depth look, even with my low audio, you can check it out in the Patreon. For any tier, you can sign up. $2 and above, I think. You can sign up and listen to me and Oscar do a reaction to the first 2 episodes in real time. First time we ever saw it. If you enjoy those kind of reaction video stuff, we're not sort of those oh my god reactors, but it's more just me going, oh wow, oh they're doing that thing, oh okay. Yeah. Jordan Mahoney Blackman said, are you kidding? Your episodes X-Men Power Rangers are amazing. I've gotten into the I think it was got off there, but thank you. Tom Williams gets an activity to be and the little shoulder devil trying to drag people kicking, screaming into from the main side of the channel to the fantasy wrestling one, because I'm so proud of them too. Yeah, they're very good. It's just a different audience, isn't it? Like the people who are into X-Men Power Rangers aren't necessarily going to be into pro wrestling, so especially nerdy guys making their own wrestling shows with some of the weird stuff that we do. Jeremy Blind World says, when I listen to your episodes of X-Men, I feel like I was getting a better understanding of the comics because the comics are some pretty visual. I can't read them because I'm visually impaired. Oh, well, that's nice. Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm happy with that, and that was my goal. Like to be like, I think the comic timeline is awesome. I really love this, but nobody's ever adapted it and brought it to an audience outside the comics. I will do that, and I did. And we've covered 20 years of history of X-Men, so pretty awesome. All right, so I'll go ahead and wrap it up there, I think, unless anybody else has got any other questions. Any other questions you want, just pop them in the chat now. Otherwise, I will wrap it up for the evening. So I'm going to get something to eat. So, and I need to get on editing and bugging actors. I said sorry, Caroline. I think he means Karl, because he's doing dictation. I actually miss you. I miss you and Erasure during that HR guys who have good Power Rangers. I'm not sure what. Again, the dictation has not understood what you said there. I'm not sure what that was meant to say. But yeah, we go ahead and wrap it up, guys. I apologize. This is kind of me. A lot of it has just been me kind of train of thought speaking off the top of my head and just letting you guys know what's going on. But just know I'm always doing something with these shows, even when the YouTube channel is not active, the Patreon is active. We've got a Discord. If you want the link to the Discord, just ask me. I'll post it up in the chat. We've got a Discord. We've got a Patreon. We've got everything where things are always happening. Scripts are something's happening. Either I'm editing, or a script's being written, or I'm bugging a cast about a script that I've sent out 5 months ago. You know, something's always going on. Oh, thank you, Dad. Alrighty, cheers, Nate. Yeah, no, I like I say, I'm good. I'm really motivated to get onto East Haven. I just need to rest up from work today, but tomorrow is I'm going to make that my priority. So I can get that out during the week. And as I say, later in the week, Avengers is coming. Episode 2, Captain America Part 1 is on its way, which has Captain America and Namor and lots of other awesome stuff. And it sounds really, really good. Joey is, as you heard in the prologue, Captain America prologue episode, Joey has taken over the editing. And he is really, really good. As you heard in the Power Rangers Brothers episodes, he's so good. And his stuff sounds even more professional than mine in a lot of ways. So, alrighty. Yeah, I can't wait for episode 3. Yeah, Mutant Massacre's on the way. It's a big ass cast, let's put it that way. And like I say, for those of you who are waiting for me to get back to you about voice and stuff, just please bear with me. If I don't get back to you, it's just because I forgot. I'm not ghosting anybody. Alrighty. Thank you, guys.